All right. Well, welcome to Six Steps to Your Dream Law Firm. Go ahead,
Last
Reggie.
question.
Yeah.
Is this CPE? Can this be used as CPE?
As a CPE or as a CEU for
No,
BI?
No, for me, for CPAs, CPE,
Yes.
is this possible?
Yes. Yes, it
Sweet.
can be. Yeah, you
Okay.
can use it as a credit, and I'll set you up with that because we're certified at Action Coach to work with all accounting firms, and so the presentation you're getting now is certified and is available for an hour credit, I think.
Cool. I need that. I need as much as I can. A
Good.
little behind.
Good. I'm glad we can get that done. That's super. So,
Need some.
yeah, let me start off. I'll just start off with a slide, but we'll be jumping around a little bit. Oh, I gotta share that screen. Bear with me one sec. Come on. You get to see a picture of my dog here who has a little bit of a drinking problem. All right. So, we're going to talk about the 6 steps to your dream law firm. I guess first thing is, who here owns a business? I know a couple of you do. Chuck, I think are you owning a business now, Chuck?
No, I'm still in the cemetery and funeral industry.
Well, after this presentation, you're going to change your ways. Yeah, well, I want to work with good to great, basically, when I'm working with firms. I also work with businesses that are maybe struggling a little bit at the moment, try to get them on track. In either case, all business I work with, are interested in double-digit growth and are open-minded to change. Now, that's key things. You got to have a vision of, I'm going to get out there and get double-digit growth, and I'm ready to do some changes potentially to make that happen. So, I think all of us can agree that's an important thing. I don't know if anybody'd say, yeah, I'm not. Are you open-minded, I guess, is the first coaching question I ask. And I ask you to kind of take that approach as we move forward. I think everyone here probably wants to improve their business. So, you can all agree to that. That's what we're here for. And in the end, I want you to feel like you're going to take action. Do something from what you've learned today. Too often we go to these seminars, we get a little bit of information, and we go, yeah, that's all cool, and it goes in the back burner and you never do anything. My goal is that you take something from this and do something with it, of course. So just to give you an idea of the coverage of Action Coach, we've got over 1,000 coaching offices in the world, and we cover, I think we've covered 17 million clients in 28 years. So it's a very powerful organization. One of the things we do is we meet since the coronavirus hit us in March. We've been meeting every morning at 7 a.m. where coaches trade ideas of what's going on with companies that are having trouble in their area, or ideas that we've used and different ways to grow companies. And we've expanded our ability to help people. We in Texas here, we have a vision of eradicating all business failure, or at least as high as percentage as we can get. We want to, as Action Coaches, take that as our initiative and try to make that happen. Good luck, you say. So a couple of polls, likes and dislikes about Zoom sessions. We're going to talk a little bit about firm challenges, and at the end I'll have a poll on feedback. So let me, whoops. It's always a challenge getting your poll up when you're showing in big screen. I don't know why. Because as soon as you click, there we go, I got it finally. And I know where to go. All right, first one I want to ask you real quickly is if you can just check off 3 of these that you'd say, hey, what I like, or what bothers me, what bothers me about Zoom? Which of these 3 would jump out at you and kind of go, those are the ones that get me. We've all been on plenty of Zoom sessions lately. So let me, you're seeing it now, right? There you go. Somebody's checking poor internet connection. Can you hear me now? So it's kind of fun to give you an idea. And the purpose for this, as much as anything, speaking to a larger group or more people in a group, is that by taking this poll, hey, Carter, welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, good. We've got about 5 of us on. Chuck Udaley's on here. You may know that name from your past a little bit. Fun stuff. And then there's also Boyd Hanley and Rajit. Both of Rajit's a CPA, Boyd's an attorney, and Carter's also a new attorney, or I guess year and a half now, right? Or so.
Just over a year.
Just over a year. Right on, buddy. All right, so we're just taking a poll here as to what we do, what we dislike about being on Zoom. I've also got one on the other side of the fence real quick for you. Let's take a look. I'll share those results. It looks like this mute button left on is the number one, that one, and poor internet connection. You know, visual restrictions of participants, multiple people talking. I think they're talking to you, Carter and Chuck, since we don't see you on camera there. Just a hint. And you can see by using this technique, you're able to run your sessions much better because people are learning the etiquette a little bit. So let's take one more of those real fast. Kind of fun. Let me see. And this one says, which of the following three do you like best about Zoom? I know which one you're charting off, Carter, first and foremost. I can see it out there as soon as you get to it. And some of the interesting things in this list, you know, is that Ranjit and I were talking before, and we're talking about, gosh, it's almost like World War II ended, you know, and the changes that occurred. We're in that process right now, drastic change, and how are we going to deal with it? So I'll end the poll, show you the results. You know, idea of getting from anywhere, that's pretty nice. Allows me to multitask. A lot of people, that drives them crazy. I've got control freaks in some of my networking groups that turn off the chat line, right? Because they don't want anybody distracted. So everybody just gets on their phone and then starts text messaging. Nice play. Like, love this being able to dress. Man, I've done a lot less laundry in the last few months, huh? And saving commute time. This geographical barriers is a new mindset that we really have to think about. No more do we have to be tied to our geographic boundaries. It's stopped, it's changed, it's gone. They're not anymore. That's the big drastic change. And so how that works in a legal firm will be pretty important. Sorry, I wasn't sharing the results. I was talking about that. So there you get a look at the results that came in. Any thoughts, comments on those?
I can test to that. I've actually increased my client base. I now have clients. I have a couple of clients in San Antonio. I have other clients all over Texas now, so it's not necessarily just in regional in Houston. I mean, it's nice if they are in Houston, but it makes no difference if they're in Houston down the street or if they're in San Antonio to Dallas.
Yeah.
So I've actually expanded a lot of my client base over different cities now.
You don't get caught in any licensing, or what is your
Only in
restriction?
Texas. I can only work in Texas.
Only in Texas. Okay, is that
But
legal?
if I want, similar to the legal.
Yeah, legal's the same way. Once you're licensed in Texas, you can only practice in Texas, I assume, unless you go and get licensed other places.
Well,
Exactly.
you can do immigration law with, you know, with any kind of license. So
I didn't know that.
Interesting. Interesting. Hey, well,
There's reciprocity too. If you've practiced for a while, and you can request or submit to the court permission to practice in different states.
interesting. Well, that might be a drastic change going forward now. All right. Drop that poll. Let's move on. So, kind of the purpose for what I'm doing as your coach today, okay? To reward your time and investment with the simplest, fastest, and easiest ways to, number one, increase sales and profits. I'm going to look at, you know, critical to success of a business. I'm going to look at how to free up your time a little bit. A lot of people, you know, time is important, but what do you do with your time? Again, we were talking earlier about, well, I got all this free time at home, but where am I going? What am I doing? Well, I feel like I just as well work if I'm home. So, you know, kind of a change, and we have to adjust our mindset to force ourselves, I think, to find our right free time. And more than anything, create an amazing team. All right, time, money, and team. 3 key things about any business. And so we're going to talk about building your dream law firm. I guess I have to ask, it's all right if I coach you for the next 40 minutes or so, huh? Anybody disagree with that? Put out, get off the phone or get off the line. No, just kidding. Quick background on me, a little, a few interesting things. Your coach today. I was raised in Idaho, and I ended up at University of Calgary. How my connections to Udaly and Nash are through that.
The country boy, the original country boy.
The original country boy, man. I lit it up once in a while at the UC in my day.
He sure did, everyone. He sure did.
I was fortunate enough when I went to University of, or California Lutheran University, where I took a head coach out in Southern California, to meet up with this John Wooden character and do his camp. Yeah. Huge influence on me in terms of what I've done in my life and so on. Of course, Magic Johnson, I also got to do his camps and got to know him pretty well, which was pretty cool. I've ridden the MS 17 times. My kind of main track record, I was a director of energy for globally for Sun Microsystem. I worked for Dell for a while, and I was also the chief advisor for cloud services at Halliburton. While I was at Halliburton, I got struck down with a bad news situation. I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and so what that did is set me back a little bit. And when I don't know, there's about 14 days there where a lot of people thought I was going to die, me included. And the information I got from people was, you're such a good mentor. You've always been. I mean, all my career as a professional executive, vice president, president, directors, or whatever, I was always called coach. And these messages came in and told me a pretty powerful story. It said, hey, you've got a purpose in life. Your life's been saved. After I recovered from the, they got all the cancer out of me. I recovered in a pretty short order, and son of a gun, I looked at these messages and said, my life has been set for me. My purpose is to coach and help people. What's the best way to do that? I went out and I invested in Action Coach as a franchise because I felt it had the very best knowledge base, and since then, that's what I do. And so that's my purpose. That's what I'm up to, and I'm living the rest of my life that way. It's my third career, and I'm turning 65 this next week. So turning 65 with a third career is perfect. I don't know why people think of retiring, man. There's too much to do. So one of the points I want to make, anybody I coach and anybody I work with, and it's always been a principle and I still live by it, is I like to get power. And power is about being able to step up and do ownership, accountability, and responsibility. Get your oar in the water and get forward. As a coach, going back to my basketball coaching days, when I'm running a gym with 60 kids in there and we're going through drills, and as soon as I turn my back, those kids that would slack are probably those kids that are below the point. Typically, they get cut because of that. They just are looking for, if I'm not being watched, they have no self-discipline. The discipline is being forced on them, and therefore, if it isn't there, then they blame other people. Take a look at the coronavirus today. Is there a little denial going on from varying levels of political leadership, and on and on? So, when I'm working with people in coaching sessions, if they're below the point, I make everything, do everything I can to bring them above it. Failure, failure, failure. Have we all failed once, twice? Bring up one leg, two legs, three legs? Sure. But the main thing is, if you're participating, you're going to give 100%, you're going to get 100%. And that's relative to all things you do, including right now. A little bit about learning. Make sure you get the most out of your learning, right? And those of us that have teenage children or have been through that, we've heard the story. I know. Hey, get your elbows off the table. Oh, I know. Hey, get off that cell phone. Get off that game. I know. Do they really listen? I don't think so. And so the I know is nothing more than like the cross arms, put you off, don't want you. And so when you think about this in terms of blocking your ability to change and adjust, if you have an I know attitude, it's not so good. You want to really move into trying to change when you're thinking I know, and it's just saying, isn't that interesting? And the whole mindset that goes with that gives you the ability to grow and become much more, just become better. What you can expect from some of the things I'm going to show you here in the next few minutes is some BFOs. We call those blind flashing of the obvious, flashes of the obvious, an aha moment. So, I like to measure my feedback and what I do when I do presentations and work with people is how many aha moments do I get? Meaning you've connected two things that you didn't connect before, and all of a sudden they fit. If I can get a few aha moments out of everybody, that's great. The thing about those BFOs is if you record them, you have a higher probability of reacting on that. Drawing pictures is even better because you will establish a long-term memory versus short-term memory, which is words. So acting on what you write as a BFO is cool. And too often, if you don't act within 24 hours, it's gone and you never will. So make note of those things by pictures, ideally. So quick thing about action, definition of a successful business, all right? I'm gonna walk you through the 6 steps, and the 6 steps will break down each of these. First of all, we're gonna talk about a commercial business, then we're gonna talk about how to make it profitable, and we're gonna make it into an enterprise, and then we're gonna figure out how it's gonna work without you. See, the reality of building a business is building an asset. We'll show you how to make profit, but it's also building the asset of your company that goes with that. And that's where the real upside is. Now, keep in mind that, you know, probably 80% of businesses that have been through their whole business cycle, when they come to the end of it, don't have an exit plan, don't know what they're going to do with that. It ends up that they haven't really built a business that runs by itself, and therefore the value is nothing more than the assets on the floor. They're so dependent on the owner that they can't do it without them. And therefore they don't have much value in the asset. My job as a coach is to get people to think ahead of that curve, right? And say, we're gonna have this thing running without you so that the value of it will be multiples on your earnings, not flat earnings or whatever else, okay? Any questions on that? Make sense? We're rocking. Step on me anytime. You can tell I talk fast and provide a lot of information quickly here. So, you know, if there's something that comes up and kind of go, hey, hold on, Hester, let's get it right. Don't be afraid to step on me there anytime. So these are the 6 steps to massive results. I'll give you a view of them and then I'll break them down for you. First one's mastery. So at the bottom level, we want to have mastery. It only makes sense to have mastery in 4 areas. We call it delivery, destination, time, and money. And I'll go through each of those in a little bit, at least one slide on each, and tell you what that's about. From there, we like to move up. We call it niche, but it's really marketing, same kind of thing. How do you turn it? I mean, if you're making money in your marketing, but you don't know how you're managing your money and you've got huge external costs, this is where Ranjit helps keep you online. Well, it's not making sense to make a lot more money because you're losing money because you're not managing your money properly, right? The other part then we get into is leverage, how to build a system, how to make it run by itself. Then we get our team in place. How does that team, now the team's got to be with you early, but in terms of there, we're getting into actual how the team functions and what you build to make them work in the system. And then synergy, this is everybody working together. This is where you get out of the business in a way, and you have a general manager and you start taking 2 weeks vacations and you go to Hawaii and have your Mai Tais or whatever else you do. And you can lead your business and it still makes money while you're not there. And last but not least, you have the results of that, which now you have passive income. And I'll tell you this, from what I've learned in working with businesses, it's pretty easy to get an LLC or whatever, you know, and building a firm and just say, hey, I'm a firm. And going out there and doing that and hanging up your shingle and waiting for clients to come and give you millions of dollars. That's not hard to at least get set up. Now, getting the $1 million, that's a whole nother ballgame. And building the business, that's this whole middle section. But once you get to the results section, brother, once you get the results, now you're in a position, just as you were as easy as getting in, it's as easy as that way to invest. And think of people today, I mean, relative to the way the market's going and the fact that there's a lot of property, people that have money today are looking, you know, licking their chops. All right. So that's a 6 steps overview for massive results. So for mastery, let's talk about that one first and foremost. Mastery is a commercial and enterprise. That's all you've got there. First area of mastery is destination, second money, third time, fourth delivery. So I'll give you a slide on each of those. But the idea is that, you know, when I start coaching with people, we make sure they understand each of these areas clearly and we have a solid grasp and mastery of each of them. So when we talk about our destination mastery, I think if you read on the left, you can see, can we all agree that in 2015, not a single person got the answer correct to where do you see yourself 5 years from now? So true. And you can see by the diagram, A to B, you know, oftentimes our destination, we go all kinds of circles and everything else. Through the law of repression or the idea of moving forward quickly, with a coach, you can take a lot of the gaps out of what you maybe don't know about business or didn't learn in business in law school and so on. And, you know, the Robert, yeah, I can't remember. So let's talk about money real quick, real fundamental stuff. But a lot of people don't seem to grasp this much, and I like to go through it. First of all, you can see that in starting your business, it's going to cost, you know, in this case, they got a fixed expense here of $500,000. You know, they've got no profit going on, right? And they're in the hole $500,000, of course. The green line being your net profit line should run parallel to your total expense line. Okay, so what you see here is the blue line being your revenue line. So at the beginning, you're losing money, losing money, losing money. And then you look at your variable cost line, all right, which adds to your fixed cost line. So your variable's your purple line, the red one's your fixed. You put those together, and that's what putting your yellow line in place. That's why it runs parallel to your profit line. You can see in this case, week 15, they got to the break even. All right. Now, what I like to do as a coach is break your business down to the point in money mastery that you know your break even per day. That makes it extremely powerful when you know your break even right down to the daily or even weekly level where you're measuring it. Hey, Kathy, welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
No worries. I'll keep rolling. But glad you're on. You've seen this slide once before. And of course, maximum utilization is where you want to get. So figuring out what that gap is between your total expenses and where your profit line is, and recognizing when that's happening in your business and then how to optimize it. Very simple. Any questions on that? Feel free to speak up. Ranjit, I'm sure you could add some quality to that for us if you don't mind. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I mean, I know it's basic, but money mastery, I mean, Ranjit and I often talk about, if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business.
And that is true. It's like often enough people realize that they are bringing money into the business and they have their cash flow coming up and that, but they don't necessarily understand the expenses that are coming in and also understanding like what are the expenses that you can cut, right? So you already have a break-even point. And a lot of times people don't understand the monthly costs. Like I had a client, he was spending so much money on his office space and was like just looking at it, I was like, why have $4,000 worth of office expense? Why not reduce it by moving it into someplace else and maybe moving your business to a more virtual platform? So understanding where your expenses are is one way to be extremely successful in business. By reducing expenses can increase your profitability.
Yeah. Carter mentioned to me in an interview before I put this presentation together that there is a tendency of some young lawyers to overexpend on their fixed costs by going to too nice a building, putting in too much stuff. I think and that's something you know, just paper, printing, all of that, all costs, and not paying attention. So he supports that, I know. All right, so how about time? What's going on with your time and how do you manage it? It's interesting that there's a lot of things that go on in our lives that are not urgent and not important. You know, you can probably take a task list of your daily, what gets measured gets better. You know, I've been getting on the scale every day since the middle of COVID, and I'm getting rid of COVID-20 pretty quickly here because of it, which is the 20 pounds you put on. But the idea of not urgent, not important, what is that distraction thing in your time? And so keeping track of measuring what you do with your time is really critical. All right. There's also urgent, but it's not important. In your mind, it's urgent. But you have to understand your priorities. And this is where coaching often comes in and can say, you know, that may be urgent in your mind, but is it really that important? And then where you want to spend your time is urgent and important. Target in the demand structure. And you'd be amazed how much challenge people have in getting their time and organization, especially when I do DISC profiles, which is kind of a communication style of people. And I find those that are in the high I category, they're very easily distracted, the old shining object syndrome, you know, or where's the squirrel, as my dog likes to think. So lots of this figuring out where your time is, because one of the things you want to be able to do in running a firm and designing a business is really focus on the important area, which you don't see as an urgent time thing. It's not urgent, but it needs to be done. And that's working on your business. So things like putting your, checking your numbers, knowing where your break even is, knowing what your conversion rate is, knowing how many leads you're actually, and where my leads are coming from. All of those things, how many transactions are we getting? All of those things are paying attention to your business so you can grow your business. Oftentimes we just look at the bank account and go, okay, I'm through this month, let's get to the next one. And that's not the way to build a business. Delivery mastery, let's jump over to that. How many of you, or where would you rate a McDonald's hamburger between 1 and 5? Anybody, give me a number. Where do you rate it in terms of how much you like a McDonald's hamburger or how good they are? 1 and 5, 1 to 5, 5 being the best.
I'd say a 3.
2, 3, 1.
McDonald's is the worst.
But certainly not 5 or 4 even. Why is it that they sell more hamburgers than anybody in the world? By far.
Because you know what you're going to get when you walk in the door.
Every time. Right on, Kathy. It's consistency. Consistency. And so building a business in terms of delivery, you need to think about, am I consistent? Is my contract structures the same? Do I know Boyd's using a variety of bundles for his work as an attorney, and he's bundled things, which means he's very consistent because they're all, here's the package, and I think that's great. So how do you figure out how to be very consistent? It includes pricing and so on. When you set yourself as a professional standards, you want to be someone in that world as well. So let's move on to niche. All right, we just covered the 4 areas of mastery. I want to keep this rolling. Niche is a commercial profitable. I threw in enterprise. Before we were just talking about a commercial enterprise. That was mastery. Now, how do we make it profitable? You're going to like this stuff, folks. So one of the things we like to try to build in our business is no price competition. How do we do that? What's the process of trying to build no price competition? Well, first and foremost, it's about establishing a unique selling proposition. And that needs to be in place for every business that exists in order for it to be unique. And when that happens, then I like to, once we've defined that, and it never happens easily, is we like to work on something I talk about called EAD. The customer gets what's expected. Well, you're going to be in price competition if you're only giving them what's expected. If you give them something that's appreciated, you step it up 1 notch. Going to start reducing price competition because they're going to say, this person, Chuck Udaley, really appreciates doing business with me. I can tell he cares about me. Wow, that's way better than just expected. Now, if Chuck goes to the next step, right, and goes distinguished, now this customer gets the royal treatment. They're getting critical non-essentials on their birthdays, their dog's birthday. They're getting little things to help them get more involved in your business. So you know what? The only place to go is to Chuck's business. There's no other place. The only firm that exists is that, because those people, now they become raving fans. They go out and cheer for you, and your price competition becomes less because people know you're the best at whatever that is in that niche. So it's really important to think about that and get that in definition for your business. The other thing I throw in is guarantee on that, but we'll talk more on that in a second. So creating your niche, unique selling proposition and guarantee, right? 2 key things. Whenever you talk price, you should be able to talk guarantee in the next sentence. Okay? You talk about a price, here's my price. Well, here's what I'm guaranteeing you for that price. You think about that distinguished. What if I knew all 5 of you or 6 of you were all going to be on this call, and right before the call started, 5 minutes before, somebody knocked on the door and showed up with a platter of Eggs Benedict or whatever your favorite breakfast was, and said, hey, from Coach Hess, welcome to coming to Coach Hess's seminar. You enjoy your breakfast. How would have you felt? A little blown away, thinking this guy's nuts? I don't know. But that's a distinct, I mean, if I was extreme distinguished and you guys were clients paying me a large amount, why wouldn't I do that? Think of the money you make and the value of your client. So let's talk here. This is really a powerful chassis. It's the 5 ways we're going to walk through. I put together a little thing that I think's close to what your business might be, but I use it daily for all my clients and so on. The chassis for these 2 cars is the same. And so the idea is, learn this chassis and you can apply it to any business at any level. So let's talk about what the chassis is. The 5 blue terms here are variables that we can control. The results of those variables are things that everybody usually knows. How many customers I have, what my revenue is, and what my profit is. But often, we've figured out, years ago at Action Coach, that if you track these 5 variables, you can make a huge difference. So let's put in some numbers. Let's assume leads. Now, definition of a lead, what is a lead? If it's if you're defining your lead as your total geographical target market, potential, well, that's probably not leads. That's just a bunch of suspects. Once you get a business card or you get a relationship or get a connection to somebody, then I think you can classify it as a lead. Every lead should be tracked. Every lead should know exactly where it came from. And you keep track of these week over week over week. And guess what? You recognize your pattern and you're able to exploit and get a huge increase. So just by test and measuring, you can, what gets measured gets better. Kind of like free throws in practice, right? Why did we write them down every time in my coaching and my basketball coaching? Well, because I wanted to make sure everybody's paying attention and it won a lot of games for us over time. Now, conversion rate is your sales, right? So if you had 1,000 leads in a year come into your firm and 50% of those were turned into customers, that's a pretty good. I don't know if that's that high of rate. I don't know how many no's. It depends on what type of legal business you're in or what type of firm you have. I'm sure there's a huge variance in conversion rates in that. But once somebody talks to a lawyer and gets comfortable, I think there's a pretty high conversion rate of what I've learned. So what that tells us is that we now have 500 customers. What about those customers? Are they going to come back? We're saying they come back twice in a year. So they may have done a will, and they may have come back and done probate, or you guys would know your language better, but they've done 2 different transactions with you. What's the average sale that you have for your business? We're going to say $1,000. Something to track. Make sure you know what is the average sale for each client that you have. And from there, if you multiply 500 clients times 2 transactions times 1,000 is your average dollar sale, it gives you your revenue of $1 million. So why I'm saying this, be thinking about these 5 variables we're working on. What can you do to change those variables? What kind of strategies can you put in place to make them better? And we'll talk more about those as we go on here. 50% profit margin is what we decided. I don't know, depending on all the costs. Boyd and I hammered around this a little bit. I don't know what the average is in the industry for sure, but I think it's pretty high as far as the profit margin, depending on if you have brick and mortar, depending on, how many people you have working for you and everything else. But of course, you want to leverage the people who are working on, you want paralegals in your operation that they can charge your rate and turn around and, pay them 1/3 of that, put 1/3 of profit in the business and 1/3 to the management and the overhead of the business. So any questions on this? I talked about 5 variables. How do you get leads? That's all about marketing, right? How do we get people in the door? What do we do? I like to have 5 marketing strategies with every client I'm working with that we're measuring minimum, because 20% are successful usually. Marketing has to become an investment, not an expense. And the only way you're going to figure that out is if you track and measure it week after week, so you know where to put your marketing dollars, whether that's your networking cost or whatever one's there. All about number of leads. Test and measure. And conversion rate's about sales. Some of the techniques I've had big success with in helping people with increasing their sales is simply following the whole sales script process, but then working with people on communication skills around DISC profiling. DISC profiling is a communication style that we all kind of function in between dominant, influential, stable, or compliant. And when we find that we talk to people in their language with emotional connection, we have a much higher conversion rate. And wherever I put that program in place, it always increases quickly. And people are way more confident what they're doing. Number of transactions, a little bit about the referral side. Can we get them referring? They want to come back to you. How do we follow up? So your CNEs, those critical non-essentials, making sure the customer's starting to feel like, you know, Kathy's my only lawyer and she's got to be the one, and I'm going to recommend her to others. And guess what? I got something else that came up, and I'm going to her because there's nobody else. And so that's how you build that, and you get your referral business and that raving fan to get that transaction. An average dollar sale, I mean, that certainly can be handled. I think most lawyers find that they're probably on the conservative side of their hourly charge. But we've found through Action Coach, and I've talked to, you know, several coaches that are focused primarily on legal, they say that the biggest change they can make with a business is convincing the attorney to raise their prices. And once they do that, they find out they don't lose customers, they don't go backwards, they just simply make more profit. In 99% of their cases, I would say, or at least 90. So I don't know. That's the word I'm hearing, and something to test and measure. And then profit margin, you know, those are your costs. And that's why you bring Ranjit on, to make sure those babies are right on the money and you take them under control. So with all of those examples and what I just said, could we agree that there's a 10% increase, a potential of a 10% increase for each one of those 5 variables? If we were able to put that in place, and that doesn't happen overnight, but you start to do that with your business and structure it by doing these tests and measuring and everything else, you'll find that I think 10% is pretty easy, maybe even more. But let's just assume 10%. Everybody can agree to that from my argument. I got lawyers, I got an attorney, watch out, man. There's a million holes in everything I say, I gotta be careful. So if we could increase by 10%, number one, we increase leads to 110. A little bit makes a big difference in this. Even 0.5% makes a difference. But even, you know, now we've got 605. Because what you recognize is I'm putting together a compound formula here, right? We go to 2.2 on our average transaction. We put strategies in place to bring people back more often. We just increased our prices. We're now up to revenue by doing that at 10%, up to 1.5 almost. 55% margin. We've improved our margin by 5%. And we had to pay Ranjit a little bit of overhead to make sure that happened, but, you know, not much. And we ended up with a total gross profit now of 805 by putting 10% values across the board and making that happen. So that's a little bit of a jump. You know, a lot of people say, hey, we're going to increase our business by 10%. And they're thinking going from 500 to 550. See the difference? Questions on that? Makes sense? Kind of fun, isn't it? So really what that is a 61% increase in profits. All right, that's niche. That's the marketing side. That's how we attack marketing as Action Coach. We go after all those variables and we get tight with them and we measure them, and that's what the coaching. I meet with my clients typically once a week, where we look at 5 ways. Most cases, most of my clients every week, those that have been really successful. One group of postal centers gone from a value of a company of 150,000 in 1 year by building up the asset, following this model and so on. It's now for sale for 450,000. They're living in heaven right now. And their average daily sale went from 500 over 1,150 right now on an average day. So they've increased their business by that, and that's common across the board for a lot of Action Coach businesses. So let's talk about leverage. What is leverage? Well, now we've got a commercial profitable enterprise that works. Now we're going to get it to work. And what do we mean by work? Now you put systems in place, right? You start to get things that are going to, you know, things that you do over and over. You want to automate whatever you can that is non-human. Everything that's required to be human, you can't, maybe. But you want to look at your business and say, what can I automate? What processes can I put in place in order to make this? And a process isn't a process unless it's written down or recorded or put somewhere. Keep that in mind. Got to be written down and tracked. So leverage is all about systems, which is saving yourself time, energy, and money. We love the acronyms here, Action Coach. But that's really what it's about. When I have a client, I say, hey, if you can do it once and get paid on it the rest of your life, do it. So one of my clients, I said, you know what's really cool? We've got your dog hired right now, and your dog's inside of your office. We've got him doing a lot of great stuff for you. Next thing I know, I said, a book's a really good idea to do once and get paid on the rest of your life. Levi, the Blue Healer, emerged through my Action Coach program out of nowhere, and they're getting paid on it for the rest of their life. And Levi's a star. Love it. Systemizing and tearing it from their business right into a little bit further. So what are the big steps? There's 9 steps to systemizing. My Action Club online program walks through all of these, but the first thing here is vision statement. Have a vision statement. All right, and I've got some details on how to help people build that if they don't have a vision. Start to think about your USP that we talked about before. Have a mission statement. What is your business going to accomplish? What's it going to get done? And then a culture statement. A culture statement is the rules of the game. In building the rules of the game, the 3 values from yourself, 3 values from your team, 3 values from your customer. All right, 3 values that are relative to your mission and what you're going to accomplish. You tie those values together and you write them out in a statement, and now you have rules for the game as you grow your firm. People know these are the values we follow. Really important. Then we get into goals, goal setting. Everybody remembers SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, results-oriented, and time-bound. It's funny, when I sit in coaching sessions with people, day over day I'm doing, and they list their 4 goals in their coaching sheet, and I say, okay, have you applied SMART to that? Because they say, make 100 calls. And I say, all right, does that apply to SMART? Well, specific, who are you making the calls to? Are you measuring it? All right? Are you going to be able to achieve it? Are there results? What do you expect to get out of it? And how long is it going to take? Now you got a real goal. Would you easily just let off these goals slip away? Once we get that, within a business and systemizing, everybody's got those in place. They know how to function that way. You have an organizational chart. Where do people fit? How am I building this business? And oftentimes, when you're Kathy Rath, you fill all the boxes almost yourself, although that's changing, I know. But when you started your business, Kathy was the accountant, the marketer, and the attorney, and all of that. And now, as you grow your business, you start figuring out how those systemized jobs can be handled by other people, and you can grow. Leverage, positional contracts, some kind of, this is your employment agreement. Getting to the KPIs. Now, I've had a lot of success lately in my growth club, which is our 90-day planning of getting people to the point where they truly understand their KPIs day by day. And then taking that whole KPI thing and really getting people to measure, rolling it up into a management system I call a dashboard, so that as the owner or the firm owner, you don't have to be talking to people all the time. They've bought in through their self-discipline to the KPIs, and they're recording them in the appropriate place, so we know where key performance indicators are getting done. Now, building those with the team, not as a rule, not as an overseer or the dictator of what they're doing, it's building it together makes the difference. That's how you get self-discipline. And that's part of building a team or management. The how-to systems, we found that people just taking their phone and recording something that's going on over and over and then storing that in their system is a great way to get a how-to system in place. And that's what we did at the Postal Center big time. But, just documenting what's going on so that other people can come in and know how to take over, and there's a process in place. And then, of course, I mentioned management system to dashboard. So we're talking team. Whoops, I jumped crazy on you there. And it's about working without you now. So now that you've got this leverage piece, and when I talked about KPIs and the team getting in place, now when this team's in place, they're doing the work. They're doing it for you, all right? And what does that look like? Looks a little bit like this. You've got the owner on top. The owner now, hey, they got a lot of responsibilities. They're dealing with paying all the bills, giving leadership, giving direction. They're make sure you stay profitable, giving encouragement, building systems. All that stuff is the owner's job. Nobody on the team is going to be doing those things unless you filter it down. Where the team needs to support the customer with great sales skills, with great quality and great consistency. And so that's your team positioning, and they're working with clients. And then clients, they're being supported by a team. So what are they doing? They're buying your products, building, becoming clients with you, and they feed the business. The business feeds the owner. Now, too many owners cross straight through into the client side. I think we recognize that. And that's the trick, is trying to separate in the system how you build a business or a firm that will run by itself. So some of the keys to a winning team, as you're building a team, I was talking about supporting risk taking as they're building their KPI. I'm okay with taking a risk and saying something to the boss and not feeling like I'm going to get my head chopped off. There are so many hidden feelings that I'm working with the employee level that they are afraid to do things, that we have to have them feeling comfortable in their work environment. Try not to build that environment. Get through that quickly because it doesn't help. And that's what strong leadership is. Having a common goal. You know, when people understand this is the firm, this is where the firm's going, this is why we're doing it, this is our mission, hey, it's all common, and they're going to get on board and lock arms with you and get there. The rules of the game, the culture, as I mentioned, everybody needs an action plan. Everybody in the business is associated to it, and everybody needs to be involved. Why we do whiffles oftentimes at the front of our, I teach that whiffle is what I feel like expressing at the front of a staff meeting where everybody has an opportunity to be included and be involved and say what's going on in their mind. It works really well. All right, synergy, we're just about done here. Hang on with me. We've got duplication, all right? So now you've done all this, you've built all of it up, it's running by itself. What are you gonna do? Well, there's the potential of, with the synergy and results, we're gonna franchise, or we're gonna open multiple firms around the United States, or whatever it is, because it's running so well. You can grow it. And the results give you really that growth and your freedom. Back to that point I made at the beginning of starting a business versus getting to the top of this ladder and being able to have that money available to you for investing is pretty easy to do when this business is feeding you the kind of profits it should be, or as it's gone through this. A couple of quotes, Dan. If you can learn to run one business successfully, then there's no reason you can't run any number of businesses at the same time. The principles are still the same. This idea of this 6 steps can be applied to all businesses. Yeah. Jim Rohn, I love this guy. Never wish your life were easier, wish you were better. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And I think that's the right thing to subscribe to the people that are working for you. You just have to direct them in that leadership. And then Brad Sugars, who's the founder of Action Coach, he says, where you'll be in 5 years. So back to my thing on 5 years. Nobody knew where they're going to be 2015 as of here today. But depends on the books you read, the people you associate with, and the actions you take. Very important, who you're around and so on. So that really kind of concludes what I had to say. I'd like to try one poll at the end here. Big thing for all of us is, what are you going to put down as your list of, from what I learned from Coach Hess today, what am I going to do to get into action? So
Need to get a
go ahead. Please speak up.
I need to have more of a system in place. I have a lot of different clients and started my business beginning and now having quite a few clients, and now I just need to get a proper system in place so I can take on more clients.
Right.
That's the big.
Yeah, just scaling it up. I'm going to ask you two real quick polls here at the end, if you don't mind, if you can see your screen. First one is, which 3 of the following do you see as major challenges in building the firm of your dreams? Pick any 3 that you think are most appropriate to you, or speak up and add. Interesting. Seeing training my team. All right, got 4 of the 5 of you in. Interesting. So I'll end the poll and share the results. So a step-by-step marketing plan. Kind of the key is the top one. And we're strong on time and systems. A little bit on getting more sale and a little bit on training your team. Recruiting system, not an issue for any of you. Interesting. All right, and then one last poll, kind of a feedback thing. Really hard under this structure to build a good feedback thing on where you get to choose. So pick any ones you want here. And like I say, in the chat box, you may want to write other things. I'd be glad. I've kind of made it all about me too much maybe, but if there's negatives, I need to know them too. And the last question is, certainly what I offer out of this session is to sit with anybody and do a 2-hour business strategy session. May not take total 2 hours, where we do a front end. Kathy's been through this with me, but Kathy, you may want to do it again, and I'm open to entertaining that, and catching up with that as well. But I just need to schedule. I typically do them on Friday. I like to get them a couple weeks out, and I sit down and go through what are the 2 biggest constraints you have in your business, 2 or 3, and really focus on those, which could be here a marketing plan that showed up. And then I like to look at a 3-year strategic plan in that session. And then from there, at the end of that session, it's is there a coaching program that fits for your business? The return on life is very important within the coaching, along with the return on investment. And so we look at those. Let me share the results.
Coach, I think one of the hardest parts for me is, unlike going in and buying a computer or buying a TV, you don't really, as the consumer, you don't really need the relationship with the salesperson, right? You're just going in to buy a TV. Yeah, if they know the bells and whistles, that's great. Whereas as an attorney, the relationship with the client is the key. You've got to build that trust with the client and have the client comfortable that you really know what it is you're talking about. And I expect with an accountant, it's the same principle. And so while getting the systems in place and being able to do the same thing over and over with consistency is awesome, I'm still left with the feeling that I am the business. And so if I want to build a profitable firm that I can then at some point either sell to a younger attorney who's up and coming, or bring on an associate who is eventually going to be responsible for running the day-to-day operations of my office, how do I not make myself the business?
Yeah. And time management, right? Yeah, I'd like to work with you on some of that, because I know you've been, have you brought somebody on yet, Kathy? You have a paralegal, do you? No?
I do not have a paralegal yet. I have started the search. I actually had the name and phone number of a licensed attorney who had stopped practicing because they got burned out. And so I was thinking about bringing them on a part-time basis, either as an employee or a contract employee, because I cannot hire a paralegal and not supervise them. Whereas I feel like with a licensed attorney, I would be more comfortable doing that after a time. But no, I haven't gotten there yet. Thought I was on trajectory to do that this year, and then COVID hit.
Yeah, interesting. Well, thank you for that feedback, Kathy, on that. And thanks for the feedback for everybody. I will identify who the 2 of you are. I think I have this one as not an anonymous one, so I should be able to find out. If not, just send me an email and we'll set up a time to definitely look at building out a firm and what it looks like in terms of the strategy. I love it. Any last comments before we bring this to a close?
Greg, I was one of the bottom 2, or one of the 2 people in the last one. And so if you want to give me a call, either today or this weekend to discuss, I'm available.
Right.
I'll be with my parents tonight for dinner. So if you want to talk to Bill for a little bit or get him to eavesdrop, you can give me a call about 6 or 7.
You bet. That'd be great. I'd love to catch up with everybody. Yeah. Chuck, what are you thinking, man? You're laughing.
Yeah, it's so great to see you, Coach, and to hear everybody. I've been exposed to Greg for Greg. I don't even know how long ago it's been. We were both awfully young back then.
74.
A long time ago, and Greg coached my youngest brother and played basketball with me and my other brothers at a high level, really high level. So it's a treat. It's a treat to listen in on you and take some coaching counsel from you too.
All right. Well, thanks, Chuck. I appreciate you joining.
Coach Hess, I might need you to help me with my free throws. We're having a free throw shooting contest at my subdivision in October. I'm a little rusty.
I'm
You're
into
talking
it,
to the right
Kathy.
person.
Yeah, we'll get that straightened out, Kathy. Just let me know when. I can't wait to be with you on that one.
I really want to win that competition in the women's.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
I
oh, yeah,
think it's too, but I don't know if that'll happen.
we'll get on it. I'm gonna follow up with you on that. Well, hey, thanks everyone. Have a great day. I really appreciate your time. I had a lot of fun. You know, when I have fun, seems like things get done. So I just keep looking to have fun. And I enjoy working with all of you and look forward to following up. All right.
Thank you, Coach. Have a great
Thanks, Coach.
weekend.
All right. Thanks for your time. See you later.